Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett. And well, folks, the NFL offseason just got a heck of a lot more interesting because the Maxx Crosby trade to the Baltimore Ravens is dead. The San Francisco 49ers are eyeing a massive deal with the Dallas Cowboys for one of their pass rushers, and we have so much more to get into. What does day 3 of free agency hold for the 49ers? Who are the players returning in 2026, and just who might be out the door after day 2 commences at midnight tonight, which is in 4 hours on the West Coast. But don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave us that 5-star audio podcast review because we have a lot to get into tonight. And that really starts off with the Las Vegas Raiders and the Baltimore Ravens deal involving Maxx Crosby no longer existing. The Baltimore Ravens have backed out of the Maxx Crosby trade that sent 2 first-round draft picks to Las Vegas in exchange for Crosby because the All-Pro Pro Bowl edge rusher failed his physical. Now, there's some nuances into what that means. That could mean he isn't healthy. His agent says otherwise. That can also mean that it's a projection of health that Baltimore is simply too scared to commit to. It feels like the latter, but it could be the former. We simply do not know what the status of Maxx Crosby's health is. He had knee surgery in January. The odds are 2 months or a month and a half later, he's not 100% just yet, thus the failed physical. But with that deal no longer in place and Maxx Crosby back on the Las Vegas Raiders, that means anybody, including the San Francisco 49ers, can pick up the phone, make a call, and say, let's make a deal. And it's really hard to think that Maxx Crosby's trade value has not naturally gone down because of this. If you aren't healthy, one team backs out of the deal that involved 2 first-round draft picks somewhere along the way. The Raiders have to be desperate to sign over $100 million in free agents after believing Crosby's gone off the books to now say, oh crap, I don't know how we can fit Crosby in the books if he is now back in 2026. Thus, again, begging the question, will the San Francisco 49ers pick up the call? And you got to believe John Lynch has already made that call to Las Vegas and said, hey, how's it going? What about Maxx Crosby? What is the interest level in dealing him back to the Bay Area, a place he once called home in Oakland? And you got to believe, too, that with a lot of the free agent pass rushers off the board now, with day 2 almost over of free agency, Crosby becomes either a hot commodity or a lot of teams already have that slot filled on their team, meaning he either has more teams that might want him or a dwindled group of interested franchises. And I'm going to believe the latter, that with free agency almost done going into day 3, that the teams lining up to acquire Maxx Crosby are probably saying, yeah, we'll give you a first and a third. We'll give you a first and a player. We'll give you a first and a fourth. And my assumption would be the market goes from 10 teams, 6 teams, to about 3 or 4 teams vying for Maxx Crosby's services. And of course, the question also becomes, not only should San Francisco make an offer, but would you be okay with the San Francisco 49ers parting ways with either a first-round draft pick and more for Maxx Crosby if his knee and his health is in question? Nick Bosa off an ACL, his 3rd one. Micah Williams off his ACL, his 1st one. Do you really want to trade for Maxx Crosby? And you look across the league now, and you're seeing reports come out that the Dallas Cowboys, who are the runner-ups for Maxx Crosby, didn't get him, then made a deal with the Packers for Rashawn Gary, already have Quinn Williams in place. They're like, look, we're out. We've moved on. You hear the Ravens are like, we don't want Maxx Crosby. We're going to go sign Trey Hendrickson tomorrow morning, changing and altering the market once again. And you hear other teams, unknown teams, mind you, are pissed off at the Ravens for backing out of the deal because Crosby's trade happened before free agency. It set the table for the market in place of how much your guy is going to cost and what team has to then transition to their 2A, their B option on their board. And now chaos has ensued. There is no promise that come tomorrow morning, the official new start of the league year, Maxx Crosby either is traded or is still a Las Vegas Raider. There's no promise that a lot of signings that happened for edge rushers or other players go through because teams pivot to, well, Maxx Crosby's out there. Can we make a deal for him before we ink X, Y, and Z player to, $100 million collectively in new contracts? This changes a lot of what we've seen the last couple of days, because not only does it impact the Ravens and the Raiders, you now have other teams either reviewing the deals they have in place that haven't officially been put on the books yet, or you have teams saying, hey, we're not in a place to make a bunch of signings. We can get Maxx Crosby in here. So much is going to happen. Teams are pissed off. The NFL's pissed off, as they should be. This rarely ever happens, and it shouldn't happen. Maxx Crosby probably isn't healthy. That's what I believe. And the Ravens knew that when they quote-unquote traded for him 2 days ago, and seemingly kind of put their stamp on the offseason, said, that's our big move, we're done. And the Raiders then inevitably gone out there and signed $150 million of contracts thinking, okay, Crosby's gone. We can fit all these guys under the books. And now all of a sudden, you can't. Or at least right now, at the hour of 8:07 p.m. on the West Coast, the day before the new league starts, a lot's changing behind the scenes. There's got to be some panic in place, and we have seen reports now by Dana Rossini and Schefter of ESPN that, yes, teams are calling the Raiders, but the Raiders are also calling teams trying to trade Maxx Crosby. And I am not one that has been hammering the point of the Niners had to get him. The Niners make sense. In fact, I've been kind of against the idea of acquiring Maxx Crosby for 2 first-round draft picks, the injury stuff, the money stuff. However, I'm not fully on board yet, but I'm a little more interested now that the asking price will likely come down. First and a third, a second and a fourth. What can you involve in a trade that can make the Raiders blush and say, okay, but more importantly here, with the Raiders desperate to now move him off the team, maybe John Lynch can pull off, I don't want to call it a miracle, but maybe he can do the unthinkable. And we've heard all offseason that the Niners want Maxx Crosby. They called last offseason, couldn't get a deal done. They've called this offseason, trying to get a deal done. I would not be shocked to hear of teams like San Francisco, like the Rams, like Seattle, all once again picking up the phone and saying, hey, it's an NFC West arms race for a player like Maxx Crosby. What was once a first-round draft pick and more, now may be a second and more. And that, again, could re-involve the Rams, who already got Trent McDuffie, who already made a couple of signings so far in the offseason, but want to keep that 13th overall draft pick. That can involve the Rams again. That can involve Seattle, who turned their eyes toward Jonathan Grenard, have a ton of cap space in place, albeit many of that is kind of put aside for their big name guys like JSN on the books and Witherspoon. And you have to think inevitably Byron Murphy and Darnold wants a raise. But man, things have gotten a lot interesting. I'm not going to make a prediction, but I do not think Maxx Crosby will be a Las Vegas Raider. There's a world where this thing lingers up until draft night. There's a world where this thing gets done in the next 5 minutes. That's why this is so insane. But we have some questions in the YouTube chat and some comments by some of our favorites out here. Lori Matthews says, sounds like the Ravens got cold feet. Yeah, I don't know if this was maybe free agency not going their way, and maybe they had their hands on other players and didn't land them. And they said, look, Let's back out. We can't afford this. And now with no deals done, let's say it's Linderbaum, the center they were going to lose to Las Vegas, and let's get him back. It feels icky. It really does, for lack of better terms. It feels like something happened. And then you learn that, the Ravens may be eyeing Trey Hendrickson, who, according to reports, wants $30 million and isn't budging off of that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple hours and few days. But yeah, this feels more like, while Max probably isn't healthy, the Ravens certainly are the ones that got cold feet. Max wanted to be a Raven. He was posting on social media, "I'm a Raven." It was in his Instagram bio. It was all over his Instagram stories. Like, he was a Baltimore Raven in his eyes. And the Ravens knew what they were getting into. And all of a sudden, at the 19th hour, said, never mind. But that's why we all say legal tampering period and deals aren't official just yet. No deal thus far is official. Not a single one, including Maxx Crosby, as we've seen. Larry Matthews also says, the substation in Santa Clara would heal Max right up. It'd be pretty ironic if, for all the injuries San Francisco has had, Maxx Crosby comes to Santa Clara, plays aside the substation, and has the healthiest tenure of his entire career. Wouldn't that be something? We have a nice comment, though, by Fluffy Ninja, always a commenter here. He says, there are so many podcasts about the Niners, and some of the casters can be rude, arrogant, but this podcast is always respectful, informative. Thanks, Sterling, for the great work on integrity. Fluffy, we're here to have fun, not disparage. And of course, we're here to talk some San Francisco 49ers. Thank you for the kind words right back at you on day 2 of NFL free agency. And funny enough, Fluffy, we are here post-surgery. Your boy woke up at 7 or 5 o'clock in the morning and had surgery at 7:30 a.m. on my head. And we are here. We are chatting it up, talking some San Francisco 49ers. So the grind never stops, as the youngin said 10 years ago when I was 19 years old. And now I'm 29. My God, I'm getting old. But Kawachipto says, I would give them Mac in a second. I don't know if Mac Jones is in the cards for the Raiders, but anything might be on the table. Anything might be on the table. Let's see. Lori Matthews asks, can the Ravens get in trouble if another physical shows the knee thing was exaggerated? I don't think so. I don't think this is a case of the Ravens having a faulty exam or a faulty physical. This more seems like Max wasn't fully healthy. The Ravens maybe had an idea of where his health was. It wasn't that. And they got cold feet. And because deals aren't official, you can't get in trouble. Like, this isn't like a team signing a player on a Wednesday, putting pen to paper, and then backing out last second. This isn't the Giants and Carlos Correa and the Mets and Carlos Correa, where it's like, what's happening here? Something's funky. Until pen's put to paper and it's passed through the league via fax, because they're so old with the fax machines. No, the Ravens are scot-free. But Maxx Crosby is back on the table for the San Francisco 49ers and the other 30 teams in the NFL, not including the Ravens and the Raiders. Niner Goat 16 says, Niners not looking like a bad organization after all. Look, the Niners, I think, have played free agency pretty smart so far. I know every year fans clamor for sign this guy and sign that guy. And I'm one of them to some degree, of like, I like, these handful of players I would love to get the Niners hands on, but it's not the way things go. And I think that when you see the receiver market explode and you see the Mike Evans deal, which according to, or kind of leaning into a question from Anthony Ramos, he says, I hope the Mike Evans is official. Yes, Mike Evans deal is official tomorrow. And fingers crossed that goes through, unlike Maxx Crosby's deal. But yeah, look, San Francisco, I think, has played things pretty smart. Who they brought in, who they've let go. It's been kind of a lot of movement of smaller pieces, and that kind of always felt like the deal. They've tried to get big. They tried to go after John Franklin Myers, who they got a bid for with the Titans, but they now have their eyes turned to other bigger things. And that's a great transition into our next topic because, yeah, Maxx Crosby's out there. That's fine. I get that. Niner fans will say, well, what do you never know. And you're right. I thought we were done. Lo and behold, I look dumb because we're not done. Maxx Crosby's out there again, but the Niners are reportedly eyeing a different trade. The San Francisco 49ers, according to, if I can find his name really fast here on my phone for you, according to, here we go. Get things right, Sterling. Get things right. According to Nick Harris of the Star-Telegram in Dallas, Texas, he says the San Francisco 49ers have inquired about trading for Dallas Cowboys defensive tackle Osa Odighizuwa. I hope that's right. I hope I said the name right. I practiced it a billion times before I went live, and I think I just botched it, but here we are. Osa Odighizuwa. I hope that's right. But the Niners on the market have needed for a long time that pass rushing interior defensive lineman. They wanted John Franklin Myers. Didn't happen. They went to $20 million per year for him. And the Titans said, watch this. Here's 21 mil. And JFM said, got a deal. And San Francisco said, crap, what do we do? They have now turned their attention to trading for Osa Odighizuwa of the Dallas Cowboys. So who is he? What does he bring to the table? And why is this maybe the move San Francisco needs to make this offseason? He's 6'2", 280 pounds. Natural leverage, being 6'2", 280 pounds, bowling ball build. But also, he's got some length, 34.25-inch arms for an interior defensive tackle. When you're playing against guards and centers that have shorter arms and are around the same height as you, maybe a little taller, he has the ideal build for a guy to wreck shop on or in the middle of San Francisco's defense on the opposing offensive line. Also has 10.75-inch hands. Those are big hands. Like, this dude is the prototypical, that's the guy you want to bring into your organization build, but it's not just that. The pass rush production, although isn't going to jump off the charts, I do think is among the best in football. And to give you some context here, looking at last year in Dallas, who, mind you, the Niners' new assistant head coach, Matt Eberflus, was the defensive coordinator for, so there is some connections. He had 52 pressures, pretty good, 3 sacks, okay, it's not phenomenal, and a 13.6% pass rush win rate, according to Pro Football Focus. Funny enough, all those are either tied or better than Quinnen Williams. And I think we all can look around and say, Williams is a darn good football player. Odighizuwa, equally productive last year in 2024. He's not or 25, excuse me. Not the best run blocker, kind of in the middle of the pack. You know, he's fine. His size does not scream run blocker. He isn't a big dude. He's under 300 pounds, but he's a fast, quick, twitchier guy that can get through into the quarterback with ease. That said, his length and his hands offer a unique trait of not being a great run blocker, but having an impressive 2.5% missed tackle rate. That's unheard of. Being a bad run blocker, but having an under 3% missed tackle rate is like unheard of in the NFL. In college, too. It doesn't make sense. He's a very unique player. But you go back 2 years ago in 2024, he was absurd. 60 pressures, 7 sacks, a 15.1% pass rush win rate. And while there was a schematic change from Mike Zimmer to Matt Eberflus, he also got to play next to Micah Parsons all year, 2 years ago. Well, get him in San Francisco. He's next to Nick Bosa, who that guy will take up double teams. And Micah Williams, who can, with his long arms and strength, take on double teams. Odighizuwa feels like the perfect match for San Francisco via trade. Now, again, run blocking English was better, but we've seen San Francisco try. Hargrave, Kinlaw, even this offseason. John Franklin Myers getting a bid for him. They are wanting to find an interior 3-tech pass rushing defensive tackle. And if there's not many in the draft, mind you, so it's like, okay, at pick 27, who you taking? You ain't going defensive tackle. You're just not. So what are you doing in free agency? What trade can you swing to avoid having to do that at pick 27 or in the 50s in round 2? Well, Odighizuwa might be that guy. I think it was last offseason he signed a 4-year, $80 million deal, so roughly $20 million a deal or a year, the exact same price tag roughly they wanted to pay for John Franklin Myers. Odighizuwa is cheaper or younger than John Franklin Myers, mind you, and this is the big thing here, he carries a $16.75 million cap hit this year, but he has no guaranteed money past 2026. There's no ties to him after this upcoming season. He's younger than the guy you wanted to bring in. And albeit not as consistent, his highs are higher than John Franklin Myers. And you get it next to Bosa and Michael, if healthy. Obviously a big question mark there. We all know this. There's reasons to believe that he could make a lot of sense. He's only 29 years old. There are connections to San Francisco, and the value probably is around maybe a second-round draft pick, maybe a third and more. Who knows? My assumption is a second and more, but that can be a second and next year's draft pick, a second and a player. I don't know. But this is a deal that if San Francisco wants to avoid or feels like this is the guy to bring in, then yeah, the production's there. The talent's there. The contract, more importantly, is there. No guaranteed money after this season, $20 million per year. Like, this is the guy. Like, this feels like the dude the Niners want to bring in. Feels like the player that they've been looking for a long time. And they've tried so many other options, draft, free agency, even this year. Now try a trade. Let's do the final option in that book of, okay, draft, check off, that didn't work out. Free agency, that didn't work out. Okay, well, let's make a deal. And so I think Osa Odighizuwa, I hope that's right. I think the Niners could trade. They could probably trade a third-round draft pick and maybe a fifth, a third, and a sixth next year, depending on what they do. I don't know what the Cowboys are thinking because they got to pay Rashawn Gary's contract when that's in the book. So they could be wanting to get rid of Odighizuwa for less because of that contract there on their books for this year. So we'll see what the asking price would be for him. But I would do a third and a little bit more. The highest I go would be a second, but that's steep because, again, there is no guaranteed money on the books for him. But however, it just, you want to be on the hook for a guy, second round draft pick. But even then, there's an argument to be made that you ain't finding a guy like him in round 1 this year. So why not do it for round 2? Like, that can make a lot of sense. And he fits the timeline of guy under 30, under contract for about 3 more years. Like, and you can lower his cap hit each year because no guaranteed money on the books. So I'm on board. You got me, John Lynch. You got me, Dallas Cowboys. Give me Osa Odighizuwa this year in the offseason. Make a trade. Everyone's clamoring for Maxx Crosby and this receiver and make a splash. This could be the big splash they make that is equally as productive as John Franklin Myers, albeit not as consistent, but higher ceiling. A little younger, but somebody that San Francisco desperately needs on their roster. And the Dallas Cowboys might be a little desperate to get rid of him because of their current cap situation. Let's dive back into the YouTube chat because we got some more questions here from some people. We have some I'm going to wait on because I want to answer them later on in the show. So Lori Matthews, your question regarding a return guy, we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to some of the new additions they have. I see you, Fluffy. Brett Toth, I get it. I already have his breakdown here ready to go for you and tell you who he is. But Anthony Ramos asked a question off of Facebook, and he asks, are we going to get rid of Trent? And then are we going to trade for something? Look, the reports yesterday said Niners are open to trading Trent. Then today it was Niners don't want to trade Trent. That's all it is. It's all posturing. Niners are not going to trade Trent. They're not. It makes no sense. Doesn't fit what they want to do. Their timeline. And simply this does not add up at all. They had in their backup plan. Trent is here to stay. For how long, I have no idea. But at least this year. And I'm assuming more into the future because they're going to have to extend him. Unless, again, all hell breaks loose like Maxx Crosby has happened with the Ravens and Raiders. No, Trent's here to stay. And your trade question, Osa Odighizuwa. That's your man with the Dallas Cowboys. He also asks, what about Dre Greenlaw? Should we bring him back? No. He wasn't healthy 2 years ago. Niners said, we want to bring him back. And I said, why? We're not going to be healthy. Then he wasn't healthy last year. Got cut 1 year into a contract. That was a massive deal for the Broncos because he couldn't stay healthy. Now fans are like, bring Dre back. Why? He hasn't been healthy for 2 years. No, I love Dre. I own his jersey. Big fan. Heartbroken with how things ended with his Achilles. And he came back, got hurt again. Came back last year, got hurt again. No. Let Dre go off into the sunset, go elsewhere. In fact, to kind of put the nail in this conversation, not only should they not bring back Dre Greenlaw, I'd rather have Deebo Samuel back. And you know how I feel about Deebo. That means a lot coming from me. So no, do not bring back Dre Greenlaw. Moving along, though, on the show into what I'm calling the sponsored part of the show, because I want to remind you to use our promo code 40 Niners Access 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase, whether it's NFL tickets in the distant future, MLB, World Baseball Classic, spring training is happening. It's around the corner. It's coming up. It's here as we speak. The NBA is in full swing. Playoffs are around the corner too. And there's much, much more happening. There's concerts. There's whatever else you want to do for fun as the weather starts to heat back up. You want to save some money. So I know I do as well. Use that promo code 40 Niners Access 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And a kind hello to our friend Niners Throwback in the chat. How's it going? And moving along here to the next segment of the show, because that's speculation. Those are rumors. Those are reports that either don't involve San Francisco or just developing stories. Maxx Crosby and the Raiders and the Ravens. Osa Odighizuwa. I think I have the name right now. Those are all maybes and could-beens and what-ifs and possiblies. But let's get into what really happened on day 2 of NFL free agency, because early in the morning, post my head surgery, I'm going to keep bringing that thing up because that thing hurts right now and I have a hat on covering the scar. Brian Robinson, the running back that backed up Christian McCaffrey last year, the Niners have interest in bringing him back. Now, is he my first choice? No. That was Kenneth Gainwell. That was Tyler Algier, who went to the Cardinals, mind you. Then there's Sean Tucker, who I'd be more inclined to want to sign on the 49ers. But Brian Robinson is that safe, kind of good option behind CMC, gives you kick return versatility. It was a nice, kind of solid backup, was healthy all year, and won't cost you a dime. The dude's cheap as all get out. And so, with that in mind, I'm not against it. And I think he is not cemented as an RB2, and he would be in the running for it, but with Jordan James. Maybe Grendo makes a run. I don't know. Like, he wouldn't be cemented as the guy. He knows the offense. He knows the system. runs with power. It may lack some speed at times. The vision maybe isn't perfect, but as kind of the second and third option behind Christian McCaffrey, why not? Are there better options out there? Sure. But for like $2-3 million, why not? That's fine. Moving along, though, because it's funny to see other content creators get on Mac Jones isn't getting traded wagon now. I've been telling you for weeks. I've been telling you for a while now, Mac Jones is probably going to stay in San Francisco. And I've run down all the reasons why before. Not going to do that now. I'm just going to reaffirm why. Because we got a report today that teams are calling about Mac Jones. Some teams are like, hey, what do you want for Mac Jones? What is McCorkle going for on today's market? And according to the Athletics, Diana Rossini, the asking price is quote-unquote astronomical. Shocker. Who would have thought San Francisco wants an arm and a leg for a backup QB that's 27 years old on a one-year contract that can't move? Sound familiar? And they have a right to do that, but as every day goes by, including today, the suitors list dwindles. And we're going to keep watching the Mac Jones sweepstakes because I've been telling you for a while, it all makes sense. And so yesterday, Malik Willis signs. Yesterday, Tua Tagovailoa goes to the Falcons. 2 potential suitors off the board. The Cardinals had Brissett. They signed Gardner Minshew. They tried to sign Jimmy G and things fell apart. How does that happen? I don't know, but Jimmy, what are you doing? But funny enough, on Twitter, when the Raiders were discussing cutting Geno Smith, I said, Geno's out there. This is going to affect Mac Jones's market. And I got laughed at. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Geno Smith, he's not going to impact Mac Jones' market. Oh, wait a minute. Look what just happened. Geno gets traded to the Jets, who also want Carson Wentz, mind you, meaning the Jets aren't getting Mac Jones. Now, maybe they weren't a suitor, I don't know, but they were a potential team. So in the last 3-4 days, to 2 days, you've lost 4 teams. The Dolphins, the Raiders, the Falcons, the Jets, the Cardinals. Now you only got 2. The Vikings and Steelers. Every day goes by. I'm just waiting for Aaron Rodgers agrees to come back to Pittsburgh for one final last dance-esque run with Mike McCarthy. Then it's down to the Vikings, who tomorrow is the new league year. That's when Kyler's getting cut from the Cardinals. That's when he'll sign with the Vikings, meaning there's nobody else left unless something insane happens and somebody else backs out of a deal or a trade. If you are in the business of wanting to trade Mac Jones, which I am, I know there's drawbacks. My dad just texted me and said, what would we do without Mac Jones if Purdy goes down? I don't know, but I'd value a 3rd round pick more than a backup QB when you can sign Kirk Cousins, when you can sign Zach Wilson. It's a backup quarterback. Is he a good quarterback? Yeah, he saved the season last year. We're all in the same boat. I get that. Purdy has injury history. And look, maybe the astronomical price tag is because deep down, San Francisco knows that turf toe for Purdy's was pretty serious last year. It might happen again. And Purdy broke rib once. He had UCL problem. He had a shoulder issue. Maybe it'll happen again. Maybe the price tag being so high isn't indicative of San Francisco, just playing hardball. Maybe it's like, look, you have to pry him out of our hands. Now, do I think that is somewhat ridiculous? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But that could also mean San Francisco doesn't really view Brock Purdy not as the starter, but simply as he can't stay healthy for a full year. And when you're playing the Seahawks and the Rams and the Bears are coming up, they're good again. The Packers are good. You got to play the Lions at some point if they go to the playoffs. There's some good teams out there. Philadelphia will be whatever they're going to be. The Commanders can't be this bad again, right? The Giants are seemingly getting better too. Like, there's reasons to say that, if Purdy goes down, Mac Jones can be a playoff quarterback. Now, I have pushed back on that saying, you know what? I'd rather have the guaranteed compensation. And I think I still would, because I think Zach Wilson can win you 2 games with this offense and this team. I think Kirk Cousins on a 1-year deal at 38 years old, 36 years old, can win you games in the NFL. Not a lot of them, but some. You also have Curtis Rourke back there, who I have no idea what he'll be, but he fits the offense pretty well. And again, stock high, sell. You never wait for the market to crash to sell. And guaranteed compensation to me is more valuable than potential compensation. So, like, you wouldn't work for the promise of $100, but you'd probably work for the promise of 85. Because, like, you know what? I can earn 85 guaranteed. But if I start at 25 and I can earn 100 based on parameters, it's like most people want a guaranteed base with incentives. But the guaranteed base has to be worth it. And you may get nothing. There is no guaranteed base of value compensation back going to San Francisco if Mac Jones stays for a year. There's none. And that to me is concerning. Now, is it life-altering? No. It's not going to break San Francisco. In fact, keeping Mac Jones may save San Francisco this year, for all I know. But right now, at this point in time, I'd rather have a 3rd-round draft pick for Mac Jones because your backup quarterback's not supposed to play. Maybe that's why the Niners are like, wait a minute. Purdy's hurt each year for a couple games. Maybe we move along. What do we have here on the YouTube chat and on Twitter? Let's see. Nothing insane is breaking. Darnell Savage has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Trey Pipkins goes back to the Chargers. What else do we have here? Nothing much. No breaking news. Team USA is getting their butt kicked up by Italy right now in the WBC, so that's a downer. But nothing big thus far. Thus, back to the YouTube chat we go after a brief pause in the action. Ryu Ken says, trade for Maxx Crosby. No one's blocking Bosa, Michael, Collins, and Max. Do it, Lynch. Sure. Okay, it's fair. It's a fair point. We'll see what happens. I will need to be convinced, but it's hard to argue with that statement right there. Really hard to. Laurie Matthews says in the YouTube chat, hanging on to Mac Jones might not be too bad. Maybe a QB gets hurt during camp and the price goes up. Yeah, it's fair. However, should the Niners wait for camp to get compensation back and get draft picks in 2 years, or I guess in next year, really? Or do you want it now? You have to weigh that too. Your point is spot on that somebody could get hurt. Joe Burrow is always hurt. Bengals want to salvage their season. You give Mac Jones, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, and you go have some fun. However, at that point, you're already punting on this year's draft, and you're trying to get guaranteed compensation for next year's draft, which at that point, just keep Mac Jones. But I like where your head's at. I just don't know what San Francisco values, and it seemed like they value keeping Mac Jones over a 3rd-round draft pick this year. And they're going to risk getting nothing back in 2 years' time. Moving along, though, kind of reverting back to one of Laurie Matthews' other questions earlier in the show, referencing Skyy Moore's departure on the Niners receiver depth chart. Signed a 1-year, $2 million deal worth up to $4.5 million with the Green Bay Packers. And honestly, I was shocked that the San Francisco 49ers didn't bring him back. Could they do better? Sure, you always can. However, Skyy Moore was a big part of that increased and productive and efficient special teams group last year, had many big returns, caught the ball inside his own 10-yard line on punts a little too much, in my opinion. But besides that, really didn't hurt San Francisco. He averaged about 27.5 yards per kick last year on returns and about 11.5 on punts. So a really productive player, really explosive player. Didn't score a touchdown, but almost did to open the Cardinals game in Arizona this past season. And for $4.5 million with incentives included, it's a nice contract for a player like Skyy Moore. I don't think he's worth that in the overall scheme of things. I don't know where he fits on the Packers depth chart because they have Christian Watson. They have, I'm forgetting his name, but the guy they drafted last year in the first round. Then they have Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks, and you have Skyy Moore, and you have Bill Melton in there in some capacity. I don't know where he fits. I mean, he might just be a return man again, which that's fine, but paying roughly $4.5 million with incentives included for a return guy, that seems ill-advised unless they have more plan for him to take on a bigger role in the offense, which LaFleur uses all the receivers. Shanahan doesn't, so maybe that is a better fit for him out there in Green Bay. But it asks the question and begs the question, who is the Niners return man next year? Now, they have some in-house options already on the team. Some have said Ricky Pearsall. I'd hate that. He's never healthy, and I wouldn't want him being the receiver 1 or 2 on this roster, then also doing kicks when he's never been healthy. Be a healthy receiver first, then do kicks, in my opinion. But there are some depth options that could be returners for the 49ers next year. Isaac Guerendo, 4.3 speed. He couldn't see the field if his life depended on it last year, but he's got the speed. The vision lacks for sure, but explosiveness is there. And if you're not going to have him be your RB2 or 3, give him a chance to be a return guy. There is explosiveness in him. And I do think a player of his value or a player of his archetype does fit the return role. We all kind of gushed about, well, if Guerendo can't be the RB2 coming into last year, the return rules are built for him. Teams are going to running backs and receivers, kind of bigger bodied guys to be return men, knowing there is a chance to break free each and every opportunity you get. And Guerendo, I think, has that kind of boom or bust potential as a return guy. So that's one player. The next guy, barring health, is Jacob Cowing, who the Niners have often tried to get him on punts in practices and in training camps and in preseason games. But again, health has bit him, unfortunately. And I don't know what his kick return status is, but nothing an offseason can't fix, in my opinion. So Jacob Cowing, if you're going to be the receiver 5 and 6 on a roster, do something. That's why Skyy Moore is so valuable. He did something. He helped you a lot as a return guy. So Cowing can make some sense. The underrated kind of, I forgot he was there piece is Junior Burgeon. Don't forget, for all the bad Junior Burgeon did in the preseason last year, muffing a few punts and kicks, he was, I think, whatever division Montana is in, he was like the return man of the year. Like, there's a reason why he was the 7th round last pick of the Niners draft class, because he has a very specific skill set. And it's exactly replacing Skyy Moore. So Junior Burgeon could be on the roster in some capacity being the return guy next year. Okay. We have Leah saying, I sound like Kermit the Frog. Well, I'll take that and say, okay. But then they reveal themselves as Cowboy Nation at the Niners. Well, that's your problem right there. You can't come in here spewing some nonsense and then go, F the Niners, go Cowboys. I mean, look, all due respect, win a playoff game first, then talk trash. That's how this thing works. So moving along to the final return option that San Francisco could bring in this year if they want to bring back Brian Robinson. He was the return man number 2 last year. You bring him back, he becomes your de facto return man number 1. So those are 4 guys that San Francisco can turn to 2026 that can kind of, be underrated, or guys that are kind of fringe bubble roster spot dudes that can earn an opportunity in a different capacity. Jordan Elliott, though, moving along on the departures for the San Francisco 49ers, signed a 2-year, $8 million deal upwards or worth up to $8.5 million with the Titans. He's the first Niner this offseason to join Robert Saleh in Tennessee. And I'm not going to lie, I wasn't shocked. I was kind of happy, expected. Very durable player, played 31 out of 33 games the past couple seasons in San Francisco, but very replaceable to a point of he shouldn't have been starting for this team last year in front of Alfred Collins and CJ West. So not a shock there. Not a shock there. Just man, I kind of like, all right, cool. You got one, Robert. You stole one. Not a great one, though. But we're happy for Jordan Elliott, nevertheless. However, not too torn up about losing him this offseason. But San Francisco did bring in two people. One of them is a return of Garrett Wallow, the veteran linebacker who was claimed off waivers during the season from the Broncos this past year, who ended up starting and winning a playoff game for the San Francisco 49ers against the Philadelphia Eagles. He's back on a one-year contract, and he plays the game right with passion, with fire. He's a backup, kind of Will Sam linebacker. Doesn't play Mike, but is solid depth and gives you exceptional special teams flexibility. So that's good there. It also led me to ask, is Luke Gifford not coming back? You never know. But Wallow seemingly, as of day 2 of free agency, feels like the Luke Gifford replacement of the linebacker core. And Lee is going on. He is going off in the comments. Wow. Having a good time on a Tuesday night. But the Niners did make one addition that is new today. It is their third brand new free agent signing, joining Mike Evans and Ladarian Lowe, of the 2 day 1 free agent signings by San Francisco. But tonight, late on the East Coast, Brett Toth, Philadelphia Eagles lineman who's played tackle, guard, and center, joined the San Francisco 49ers via a 1-year contract. This screams a Matt Hennessy replacement. He's played tackle, left guard, and center in his career. He's 6'6", 304. Pretty big for a center. So maybe Nick Zakelj is the backup center. Wouldn't love that, but, whatever. And maybe he's the backup left guard. He's the veteran Ben Bartch replacement of the bunch, or maybe a camp body for no money at all. Over his career, his PFF grades are a 59.9 pass blocking grade, with 4 sacks allowed and 25 pressures. However, he's a more adequate run blocker, a 63.82 run grade. And he's kind of gone back and forth in his success with gap and wide zone or zone running schemes. So a very kind of low ceiling, middling floor player, not going to give you much, but a veteran camp preseason depth option when it's all said and done that can play 3 different positions. So good on Brett Toth. San Francisco gets their second offensive lineman, not big names, but their second offensive lineman in 2 days. See, folks, they're addressing the offensive line just in the weirdest ways possible. That said, we do have a move I think San Francisco should have made. And thus far, it is the only move I've seen of free agency that I think is the one I would put above the rest in the Niners couldn't do that category. This is the one deal they couldn't do. That is watching the Packers release center and left guard Elgton Jenkins, who is a 2-time Pro Bowler, which has lost its luster, but nevertheless, still a Pro Bowler. Then watch him get signed by the Cleveland Browns on a 2-year, $24 million deal with $20 million guaranteed. So basically a 2-year, $20 million deal, $10 million per year. What am I missing? This dude is awesome. The pedigree's there. He knows the offense. He makes sense. Packers fans were like, why didn't we trade him? Why are we cutting him? You're signing Aaron Banks over this guy? Really? This was the one deal where I was like, oh, that's a head scratcher. Of all the deals that have gone down through about 24 hours, the Elton Jenkins one was the one I said, that one may have got away. That's the one where it's like, darn, we really wanted that one to happen for the 49ers once it got cut by the Packers. But tomorrow's a big day for the NFL. Day 2 has been big. Maxx Crosby stuff happening late at night. Niners involved in talking about trades and trying to get defensive tackles. Osa Odighizuwa from the Dallas Cowboys. There have been some signings, some departures thus far. But tomorrow is the big day. Tomorrow is the new league year for the NFL, meaning that players that are post June 1st designations are going to be released, meaning Dre Greenlaw will be a free agent tomorrow. And more importantly, Brandon Ayuk's time in San Francisco comes to an end. You can put to bed the BA talk, the BA discussion forever, and look back in vain and say, God, what a disaster. However, we also have more news because tomorrow, according to Diana Rossini, Trey Hendrickson is supposed to make his decision. Now, people are leaning towards the Ravens being the team that will sign him after kind of burning and spurning Maxx Crosby. However, you got to wonder, are the San Francisco 49ers involved in Trey Hendrickson in some capacity? They called about him at the trade deadline. Matt Barris of The Athletic said they'd be kind of poking around him in the offseason, and tomorrow is a big day. Now, maybe it is the Ravens and nobody else, but are you going to be shocked if it is Niners sign Hendrickson to a 2-year deal? I wouldn't be, or at least learn they're in the conversation towards the end, or they were a finalist for him, or a serious contender. However, that said, according to reports, he wants $30 million a year and isn't budging off of that. To that I say, you better fire your agent, brother. In no way, unless the Ravens are that desperate, are you getting $30 million a year at the age of 31 off a back injury. No way, dude. No way. So the Bengals have botched their edge rushing room, but my God, Esther Henderson botched thus far his contractual value. Lori Matthews asks here in the YouTube chat, worried about Max's injury and wanting another injured player. That's the thing. It's like Niner fans are like, Bose is always hurt. Pierce was always hurt. Michael was hurt last year. All of the injuries. But you want to trade for Maxx Crosby and lose draft picks along the way, or also fork over a ton of money for Trey Hendrickson, who was hurt the entire second half of last season. Well, that doesn't make sense to me. Thought you wanted to get healthier. People complained about getting younger because they signed Mike Evans yesterday. Okay, you want to sign a guy that's been more hurt than Evans? Like, yeah, he's, I guess 2 years removed from a massive season, back-to-back 17 sacks years, but I don't know. Like, signing Mike Evans to me is in itself a risk, albeit maybe worth it. And Hendrickson could be in the same conversation, but do you want to pile up a bunch of those guys into your free agency class and say, we did it? No, you take one of those risks and say, okay, how else can we get younger and healthier? And it really doesn't include Maxx Crosby, who failed the physical, according to the Ravens, and it probably isn't 100% just yet, or sign Trey Hendrickson, who was hurt the entirety of all last season. So we'll see what tomorrow holds. It's a big day. It is the third day of free agency and the new league year kicking off, which again will end Ayuk's tenure in San Francisco, and Dre Greenlaw becomes a free agent, which also could mean more free agents enter the pool tomorrow, which should make it even more fun in the upcoming days. But let's look ahead into day 3. Who are some names still out there that San Francisco could sign. And I got a list. I'll mention that they could make a trade for Jonathan Grenard. If they want an edge rusher and they want to make a deal for a trade, don't get Maxx Crosby. Get Grenard. He's cheaper. He wants a new deal. You can lower his cap hit in the process. Already under contract for 2 years and not going to cost as much. That's who I'd go for. But other guys on the list, Clavon Chaisson, still a free agent. The Patriots signed Jamont Jones, ending Chaisson's tenure out there in New England, thus meaning he maybe is up for grabs for San Francisco. If they want to cut Bryce Huff, which hasn't happened yet but could happen tomorrow, watch out for that too. Clavon Chaisson is an option. Sean Tucker, a backup running back, mentioned him earlier in the show and yesterday too. He's still out there. Don't know why. We could also see San Francisco maybe sign some of the RFAs like Samuel Kawanu and Jake Tunges. Haven't really got word of their tenders yet, which is shocking. So maybe news happens tomorrow. Other free agents, though, are Jack Conklin, backup linebacker, probably not going to happen knowing that Garrett Wallow's back in the fold. But then there's Deebo Samuel, who I guess on top of the Super Bowl week rumors, he's going to be playing flag football with Kyle Juszczyk on a team coached by Kyle Shanahan. So things continue to get more interesting on the Deebo Samuel watch. Other names I'd prefer they target over Deebo Samuel are safety Jalen Hawkins, who is still out there for whatever reason. Not sure if he's too expensive or the market's too small for him, but if I'm San Francisco, I am jumping at the opportunity as soon as I can. Other names include, though, Dylan Parham, left guard from the Las Vegas Raiders, Brady Christensen, center, guard, and tackle from the Panthers, DJ Wanham, edge rusher from the Panthers the last couple of years, then Al-Quadin Muhammad, the Lions edge rusher, and Arnold Ebiketie, the Falcons pass rusher last year. Some fun names still out there, many, many more to go, and a lot more days and signings to happen and transpire the next few days. But we have some comments in the YouTube chat once again. ManorGoat16 says, I would like Greenlaw back. He missed 1.5 years because of an Achilles injury and a secondary injury because of the Achilles. He played the second half of last season, got healthy, bring him back. That's great and all, man, but I just can't do it. I can't do it. I cannot watch the team get decimated by injuries, although I love Dre Greenlaw, and then say, come on down after 1.5 years, basically on the shelf recovering. I don't love that. I love Dre, just have fun elsewhere. But that doesn't mean San Francisco shouldn't still improve at linebacker. I would have loved Leo Chanel. Caden Ellis signed with the Saints today. He was an option for the Niners, but the Niners cannot quit when it comes to Greenlaw and Deebo rumors. So we'll see. Maybe you're right and you get your wish, but we'll see in the next few days. Starting tomorrow, that deal could happen in the morning as soon as the new league year begins. Like, that is the one where I'm like, yep, there you go. Like, that makes sense. Will it be fun? Sure. Is it the right move, though? I don't know about that. Fluffy Ninja says, I like Kayvon Thibodeau. I liked Kayvon Thibodeau, and I still like him. I liked him a lot more during the year when he was under contract for 1.5 years and wasn't playing on his fifth-year option. I don't want to sign a guy for 1 year for $14 million. I'd rather go out there and ink a guy to a 2 or 3 year deal and kind of give myself some flexibility with the cap. That's the problem with Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, there is a back and forth to be had because he took on a ton of double teams last year for the Giants. However, he has only had really one productive season. And again, do you want to pay $14 million for a guy who fits your scheme for sure, but hasn't really been productive? That's a guy, in my opinion, that you don't trade for. But in a year's time, if you want to become the next Arden Key and Clellan Ferrell and Ebukam, and come on down, we'll get you on the books. But let's see where the asking price is at, because if Trey Hendrick or if Maxx Crosby goes for less now, that does impact the other trade market. So maybe instead of a fourth, it becomes a fifth or a sixth, which seems really cheap, and they probably wouldn't move him for that. But you never know. It's a new defense in place out there with the Giants. So I don't hate it, but I'd rather get guys under contract for longer, although he's still young and would fit the scheme. So we'll see what happens tomorrow too with him and throughout free agency. Laurie Matthews says this, I want to see them hang on to Huff. He isn't that expensive. They need some depth, similar to how they should have kept Floyd last year. Yeah, it's tough, right? Like, the Niners could have used Floyd for sure. However, cutting him was probably the right move. And this is where things get tricky, because, does Shanahan tell Raheem Huff is super cheap? We're going to run the wide 9 stuff, still kind of similar to how things were run last year. Or does Raheem kind of employ what he did, or deploy what he did with the Falcons, which could make Huff not a great scheme fit? So there's ways to make it work. It is dependent on what Raheem, or how Raheem views Huff. As a speed rusher, he's awesome. When everyone's healthy, Huff is a great kind of mercenary-esque weapon on third downs. But other than that, they have much value to be had. So I'm torn, because if you can get value for him via trade, you can work other deals out in different directions and improve the roster in different ways. I'm good getting rid of him, but I'm also not against keeping him by any means. Our last comment of the show is Bobo saying, Joey Bosa, no, do not sign Joey Bosa. I know Nick is his brother. I don't care. Joey has had one healthy season of the last 5, and it was last season. I don't want that in San Francisco. 2 years ago, maybe. A year ago, maybe. Not now. I don't think he's had a year, if my numbers are correct. I don't think he's had above 6 sacks and like 30 pressures since 2021. I think that's right, and that's not good. You can find that anywhere as a depth guy. So he's a name, but I prefer value over a name, production over a name. I get it, though. He makes you a little more excited because of name value. He makes your ears and eyes perk up, but I'd be underwhelmed if Joey Bosa was the Niners' big edge signing. I'd be like, really? That's the guy? Okay, I guess. Before we go, we'll do one last skim of social media, if anything has happened, and the answer is nothing. Thus, putting to bed day 2 of NFL free agency. Drop your thoughts down below. Do you want San Francisco to trade for Maxx Crosby? He's back on the market, folks. He is the Las Vegas Raiders Maxx Crosby, not the Baltimore Ravens Maxx Crosby, because the trade is dead. Or are you saying, no. Go get Osa Odighizuwa, somebody we've learned the San Francisco 49ers have inquired about tonight of the Dallas Cowboys. Wink, wink. That's what I would do. And what do you make of the departures of Jordan Elliott, Skyy Moore, and the additions of Garrett Wallow and Brett, whatever his name was, Brett Toth, the new offensive lineman, in going to back up whether it's whoever's playing left guard and maybe Jake Brendel at center, and give you more veteran depth behind the scenes. And what is one move you want to see the San Francisco 49ers make in free agency as we progress going into day number 3 tomorrow, the beginning of the new league year? And give yourself and give Brandon Ayuk the middle finger salute on your way out. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. But Ayuk's gone tomorrow, folks. Sayonara. We'll throw a party, pop some bottles. But I'm going to go out there and rest because I had head surgery, my 3rd mention of it today. Thank you, Fluffy, for the feel better. I hope you're having a great Tuesday, and I hope I can feel better tomorrow. But it doesn't matter whether I'm brain bleeding or I'm walking fine. We'll be right back here on the show talking Niner football, reacting to day 3 of NFL free agency. But don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave us your 5-star audio podcast review. Thank you to everybody in the YouTube chat. Follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X, or Twitter, 49ers.access is the Instagram, and use that promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. That is day 2 of NFL free agency. Drop your thoughts down below. And as always, my name is Sterling Bennett, and stay faithful.